The best heroes batch to date, but how should you build their hidden potential? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are taking a look at the 2024 batch of Dragon Ball Heroes units. This is the final batch of Dragon Ball Heroes units, and they are some of the best, if only for the fact that not only is characters like the Universe Triku very, very good, they also have their passives completely rehauled, unlike previous years' Heroes units, to be able to work off of the Heroes teams. They are no longer conditioned to be on a full Heroes team. This opens up a lot of possibilities for their hidden potential for you to play around. So we're going to talk about my recommendations for the various units. We'll look at the Universe Tree Goku, we'll be looking at the Fizz Warrior in Black, the Kid Fu, the DEMIGRA, and the Eos. These are all of the new units from this current batch. So let's go ahead, let's start by taking a look at the Goku. So the Goku is a Dragon Ball Heroes Kamehameha and Power Beyond Super Saiyan 170 lead and 30% to cross over. So most units are going to be on his 170, but honestly, with the units you're going to be running on his 170, it's not that big of a deal. Now, he does raise his attack infinitely, or not infinitely, but for one turn on his super attack effect with a medium chance of performing a critical hit. That means he does have crit built into him. He also activates an instant animation upon his entry turn. Once only, he gets defense 200% and launches an additional attack for 4 turns from his entry turn. He also has Key 2 and attack defense 150%, plus an additional attack 150% when attacking, plus an additional defense 40% when with each attack performed, up to 200%. He also launches an additional attack that has a great chance of becoming a super attack and randomly changes key spheres of a certain type to STR key spheres when there are 3 or more crossover allies or a singular ally who includes Zeno in its name. He also has an additional attack 50% for the rest of battle and a great chance of guarding all attacks within the same turn with 3 or more key spheres obtained. He also has an additional 100% for the rest of battle and guards all attacks within the same turn with 5 or more key spheres obtained. He also has an additional 150% for the rest of battle with 7 or more key spheres obtained, plus an additional damage reduction when his guard is activated. So all of that kind of screams what you want his hidden potential to be, right? Knowing that he benefits the most from additional super attacks, that is definitely going to be where you're going to begin your look, right? And as we see, as the as an STR type, he has built-in crit, but since he has built-in crit to his super attack, it's probably one of his least ones you need. He has a 30%, and with every attack he does, it actually gets significantly better. So you do want to prioritize additional attacks since the crit isn't necessary, right? That first crit does is a 30% chance. That second crit is a 60% chance, and so on. The more he does, it gets more likely that he's going to launch it. So you don't need it. So combo attack all the way. As an STR type, he can get 15 nodes, 25 if you include the hidden potential orbs, which means he has a he has a 50% chance to deal an additional super attack on top of the 4 that he's already doing, especially early on. This is incredibly helpful in later parts of the fight where things can shift dramatically. So definitely very helpful. I would say his probably sub should be evasion, since he does not need crit. You could do like I do and go and throw some crit in there if you don't really trust those initial crits. Like, I've had instances where the initial crits just don't proc, and so I don't end up getting crit till like the 4th super. It can happen. It's bad RNG. It tends to happen to me a lot. So you could go sub crit just to kind of try to make up for that, or you could go evasion. Either one works for him. He will perform just as well in either scenario. So just, throwing that out there for you. So that is the Goku. Additionals and dodge. Moving on to the warrior in black. Now, we're not going to go through his full passive, but just understand that he works a lot like the Tech Vegeta. Basically, he has the most amount of damage reduction, and while up to 70% when the enemy is at full HP. But once that switches and the enemy begins to drop below 70% and then below, what is it, 40, not 40%, 60%, no, 40%. When the enemy drops below 40%, he then can, you know, his attack shoots through the roof. He becomes incredibly offensive, right? To the point, you know, easily being able to hit, you know, 25 or million or so, right? If you play your cards right, of course. So definitely want to throw that out there that, you know, he benefits a lot from additionals, right? Especially when you consider the fact that he is greatly lowering attack and defense. So honestly, looking at him as a Fizz type, you could go one of two ways. You can go full additionals and take advantage of those extra supers. The more supers he does, the greater his defense is going to be, easily achieving, you know, over 1.5 million, which will definitely which will help you out a lot in taking most hits, including, you know, plus that little bit of extra damage reduction that he's going to have left. You know, it'll definitely be beneficial with the combo attack. You could also go dodge, right? If you're worried about him in those instances where he loses a lot of that damage reduction, dodge is also a good choice for him. Just because, you know, things can get a little dangerous for him, right? Especially, you know, from the super attack. So either one of these really work as his main setup. I would go in either setup. I would definitely go critical hit as the sub, being that he doesn't, he only has that medium chance of performing a critical hit, which is only 30%. So, you know, there could potentially be a lot of scenarios where you don't proc that crit, which then leads into other problems. So would definitely recommend having sub crit to make up for that 30%, but prioritizing evasion or combo attack. Either one works for him. Moving on to the youth Fu. He is a bit interesting. He is a little more limited than, say, the Goku or some of the others, right? Being that he would prefer to be on a crossover or time traveler setup. So crossover at this point basically means heroes. However, when on that setup, he is looking at a lot of extra attack. He's doing a bunch of additional attacks. He is infinitely greatly stacking his attack. So remaining on rotation allows him to look really good, especially when you're facing super class enemies or you're on a full extreme team, right? He has built-in crits and damage reduction with every super attack. So the more crits he does, the more super attacks he does, the more crits he has, right? So he can already do 3 through his passive, adding a 4th through his hidden potential, which leads us to his hidden potential. As an AGL type, he's already got built-in combo attack, so go ahead and lean on into that since he has the built-in crit. Full additionals, right? Leaning into the 40% or possibly 50% if you go in, or I'm sorry, 60% if you go with the hidden potential skill orbs into that as well. 60% to launch an additional super attack. Going to be very helpful, especially when you consider that's also raising his attack. No need for the critical hit because he's got that built in per attack. And then I would go sub evasion. You could also flip it and go full dodge and then sub combo attack. I think either one would work very well for him. Just understand that a full dodge in this case is an AGL type is only getting you about 25% chance to dodge, which is still good, but he definitely doesn't need the crits. It's a lot less beneficial. I have found that his crit, because it's not on the super attack effect, but rather through his passive and it builds, I have found that it has built up far more quicker than the Goku one, who I seem to be missing a lot. But that's just personal experience. So again, combo and evasion for the Fu. Onto the DEMIGRA. The DEMIGRA is actually incredibly good. He is a phenomenal tank. He tanks just about every major super in the game on global, and he does have quite a bit of attack, easily reaching up to 24 million, especially if you have additionals into him, right? He is a support unit and a tank as long as he is in the first slot. So very, very powerful unit. He's one of Meki Kabura's best partners, even, the AGL Fu. 8 partners. So with that in mind, his potential, right, as the fact that he is mostly a tank, I would say his best hidden potential build is more than likely going to be additional attack, because he builds up based on getting hit. You do not want to go evasion. I mean, you could, all right, but you're slowing down his progress at building. And, in some longer events like Beast Gohan and, Goku Frieza, probably not that big of a deal. But in other events like Gogeta and Janemba, that dodge could cost you a turn, right, by not allowing him to get as built up as he needs. So personally, I would say lean into the additionals, so that way you're more likely to get an additional super attack. All right, as a tech type unit, he can get up to 15, which means 30% extra chance. And then, of course, 25, meaning 15% if you lean into the skill orb. So definitely lean into the combo attack on this one. It's going to be the most beneficial. And then, honestly, I mean, he can deal big number damage, right? And he has a 50% chance of performing a critical hit. So honestly, sub dodge wouldn't be the worst for him. You won't be proccing it enough to miss major hits, but with sub dodge, you're not getting any more than 9 to 11 on him, depending on your skill orb setup. So it's probably not going to be that bad. But I definitely wouldn't invest full dodge in him, because you don't want to be dodging too much and not be able to get built up. So combo attack, sub dodge on the DEMIGRA. He doesn't really need the critical hit with a high chance to critical hit. And then finally the Eos. All right, we're not going to talk too much about what she does. Just understand that she is a dodge support unit. That's what she does. She supports for 40%, 24 if they're also on crossover, meaning 54% support. She also recovers HP. She's also HP recovery, which is really useful, and she doesn't have to get hit to proc that recovery. She is also one of those types of units whose dodge builds the more she dodges, right? So easiest answer in the world. As an int type with dodge, she can get up to 20, meaning an extra 20% chance to dodge, 30% if you invest the extra skill orb. So honestly, that is probably the best for Eos, right? Full dodge, because that's all Eos is doing, dodging and supporting, providing some support with like super attack sealing in events. Like, she's really helpful for Bulma with that super attack healing and that extra recovery that she's getting, so very, very helpful there. Plus she also has that chance of stunning all enemies on her passive, which is also helpful for fights like Bulma. So definitely recommend going full dodge on this one so you can take advantage of her dodge abilities. So once again, to recap all the characters, Goku is additionals and dodge, or additionals and crit if you don't trust the crit. This guy is additionals and dodge. This guy is additionals and dodge. I mean, you're kind of seeing a pattern here, right? Additionals, sub dodge, or sub crit, either one. He doesn't really need the crit, but he also doesn't really want dodge either. And then, of course, full dodge. Again, full dodge is not a recommendation I make lightly, but there isn't really a need to go additionals or critical hit on her. She's not going to be dealing damage as a support type unit. So that is my recommendations for the hidden potential for this batch of Heroes units. Honestly, not that bad. They are some of the better ones, and the right hidden potential build could make or break their runs. Goku having additional attacks really allows him to shine. It's definitely one you want to be looking at. So guys, that's it for the video. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, how did you build the various hidden potentials for these units here? Did you like my builds? Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.